If you've been around the raiding scene of Final Fantasy XIV, you may have heard some unkind things being said about Dark Knight, getting as bad as being called the worst tank. The main issue with the job isn't its damage though, as numbers can be easily buffed, and that did happen with the Savage patch, but I am afraid that those are going to be the only changes to the job in Dawn Trail. You see, while being effective at dishing out damage, the job has a bigger problem. It's just not well designed, and has been effectively the same for 5 years now. In this video I will try to give a short overview of the issues the job has and point at potential solutions. If you enjoy the job in its current state, good, but I hope you will agree with me at some point. And not everything I say is going to be objective, starting with job identity in Final Fantasy XIV is based on two fundamental principles: what the job does mechanically and what the job tries to present as its fantasy. Those principles intertwine and create the job feel. For example, ninja can go invisible, does Naruto hand signs for jutsus, and is generally considered to be mobile. If we look at the tanks, Paladin is a party protector and a caster tank, even if the casts are instant. Warrior is a rage-powered self-healing animal. Gunbreaker is a wannabe DPS with support queue times. And then Dark Knight is a... what exactly? Mechanically, I see it as a flexible DPS shielder tank. You get to move some of your cooldowns around, whether it's one Shadowbringer, or Edges of Shadow, or Ablation, or TBN. You want to put your offensive buttons into buffs, but in a highly phased fight like an ultimate, you get to choose where to save or to use them. And that's the best part of Dark Knight, because of how everything is disconnected in its kit, you are allowed to do so. But where does the job fantasy come in? I don't know. Honestly, I never understood what the job was supposed to do since Shadowbringer's released. If you look at PvP kit, it's supposed to be an emo drain tank that is too edgy to die, and I understand why the only skill resembling that in PvE is Living Dead, but it's somewhat of a recent change. Before patch 6.1, you didn't heal yourself, you were at the mercy of your healers. Maybe there could be an argument about being a resource management tank, but about that. It's been a process of 3 expansions, but mana and blood gauge management are truly gone now. With the change to Shadow not requiring resources, only 2 basic rotation rules are left. Don't overcap mana, have 70 or less blood before pressing Delirium. At least in Shadowbringers and Endwalker, you had to save blood for the Shadow before your 2-minute burst, and you got 1200 more MP from the blood weapon every minute. With those restrictions gone, there are less points of failure, less things to master, even if they're so basic. Isn't it wild that job has a full-on gauge that doesn't really interact with anything? You just use it to not overcap a resource. And you dump it in buffs only if it aligns. You don't go out of your way to save Blood Spiller for buffs. It either happens naturally or not. If you want a bit more of an analytical approach to this problem, in my M1S week 1 kill, I press 1-2-3 combo 51 times. Blood Spiller 24 times. If I ignored my blood gauge and kept pressing 1-2-3, I would get 8 more basic combos and 4800 more MP. So 1 more Edge of Shadow. If I calculate all that data in the same kill time scenario and approximately the same crit direct hit rate, I would lose 4.8% of my damage. The only thing left to optimize on the job is having a Dark Art stack for a 2-minute burst that you get from the broken TBN. So let's talk about TBN. In my short time of progging week 1 Savage, I got a really funny problem in the first 2 fights. I had to undress before every pull, and I had to explain multiple times why I did that, and I will do the same here. Part of the Dark Knight's opener is to use TBN pre-pull and have it broken by boss auto attacks to get a Dark Art stack. The issue is, in M1S and M2S bosses do 1 auto that doesn't deal enough damage, so you're forced to undress to get a weaker shield. And think about it, I had to do it in a week 1 gear, and I have to keep doing it with better item level. It is such a unique problem where your main mitigation tool, while becoming better, becomes harder to use, and it makes no sense. TBN could give you a Dark Arts stack on expiration or just being hit once. You could have an extended duration on it, so there's a higher chance of it being broken, just something. But the fact nothing was done about it really makes me think that no one at Square actively engages with the job. Every tank's short cooldown has a Yu-Gi-Oh card tooltip at this point. They will cook your food, do your taxes, and sing a lullaby before sleep. And here's Dark Knight with a failure condition on its shield. Whether it is justified by the shorter cooldown on TBN, I am honestly not sure. But TBN is only one of the problems Dark Knight has when it comes to defense. His party mitigation Dark Missionary is magic only, making it effectively useless against a lot of physical AoEs in this Savage tier. Job-specific mitigation Dark Mind is magic only as well, so the same kind of problem in Arcadian. Ablation while having 2 stacks has a cooldown of a minute, but it's only a 10% targeted mitigation. It may be a deciding factor between a squishy party member living or dying, but why can't it be a 45-second cooldown at least? Or have a small regen tied to it? Dark Knight objectively doesn't have a self-heal in an AoE scenario, like Dungeons, outside of Abyssal Drain that is 1 minute, or Living Dead that may never proc because healer overheals you. I never understood why Abyssal Drain can't be 30 seconds instead and have a higher heal potency. And nothing changed in Dawn Trail to fix that. Shadow Wall getting an Excog-like buff that heals around a quarter of HP is not that effective in a tank swap scenario. And in Dungeons it's yucky, healers will still throw in an OGCD at you. But I have to admit that it is amazing in able to hit tank buster scenarios, especially if you can throw in TBN after the first or the second hit, like in M3S. But speaking of things not changing. Effectively, Dark Knight only got 1 GCD. This is Steam, suppress every 2 minutes while losing gap closers and edges, toning down total clicks per minute. Delirium combo only looks fancy, but effectively its damage substitutes the loss of plunges, and it makes you less flexible because your 1-2-3 combo breaks it. So it's just the reskinned plus pillar spam, but worse. If you look at Warrior, the job got an impactful OGCD after Feral Cleaves in Inner Release and GCD combo from Primal Rent, which makes it feel different even between 90 and 100. I guess on Dark Knight you get to peel off the boss for 1 GCD during burst or a little after without losing damage now. Yay. And even then, consider this. Dark Knight had the same 1-2-3 combo for 9 years at this point, and when it lost its aggro combo, which looked superior in Shadowbringers, nothing filled the void of GCDs. And you pressed that 1-2-3 so much while Warrior got a new cool looking skill even for earlier levels. You know, let me complain about that as a freebie. For the past 2 expansions, Dark Knight gets reinventions of Dark Passenger, a line AoE ability. Now we have a GCD version and an OGCD version. That's kinda it. Shadow does our abilities, but they're not flashy or anything. Is it a real issue? For me, it's the opposite. I am a fan of skills that stay humble. But I also feel that my job hasn't changed that much since Shadowbringers. I kept expecting our character to have a buffed form, like Reaper, Viper, or even Scholars. But no, we just keep summoning a walking dot that gives other party members a heart attack because it stands in their spots. I forgot to write a segue into the conclusion part of this video. Okay, you see, I have a tinfoil hat theory that Square doesn't really understand what they want to do with Dark Knight. Good DPS is a band-aid fix to the issues it has, but I don't think having a tank that's situationally amazing against magic fits the design philosophy they've been pushing for a while now. For example, I see Gunbreaker as a selfish tank that's a bit better against physical damage, while having a comparable anti-magic AoE utility. But if we take Camouflage, it doesn't turn off against magic, just loses a part of its functionality. And I don't have a lengthy list of all the things that need to be changed about Dark Knight. Zeno rants about it from time to time, and Dane Tank released a video with the thoughts about the job in Savage. I would highly recommend watching them. Links are in the description. But that's it for me. What is your opinion about Dark Knight? Do you think just a small change to the existing tools would be enough, or a full rework is justified at this point? I would be interested to see what you have to say in the comment section below. I want to give special thanks to Zeno and Dang Tank for allowing to mention their content, and Sindal from the Red team for sharing his thoughts about the job with me. And thanks to you, dear viewer. I hope you will have a great time of the day. See you in the future.